What's in a name? A villain by any other name would smell as foul. This is really minor horror, all told. Noon was hurt, Noon left the game, and if you're going to accidentally name a character what he did, well, could definitely be a worse choice of character. So, playing a game with a longtime friend and fellow player, now first time DM, and it's fun. Germanic setting, lots of weird corruption around, we need fight. Yesterday's session, an NPC begins narrating a disturbing backstory of a god so corrupt, the Chaos Worm, that even hearing his true name caused madness, and hence it was impossible to write or say his name by act of the other gods. But some inscriptions from before the ban remain, and cults worship him. One such cultist was burned, full of corrupted worms. But a crow ate his eyeball and mutated, and it's believed this man, Heinrich Himmler. Turns out that he was putting names together, and didn't realize that was also the name of Icknow, a literal Nazi. But, hey, at least it's a villain, right? A bridge not far enough. Our game is great. We have been playing GURPS Fantasy for a few months and the GM is fantastic. He made the world up, and it is detailed, and he really knows how to write adventures. Why don't you join? With that invitation I decided to come over, unsure I would have the time, and I took over an NPC for the session to just have some fun. I would decide later whether to commit or not. We had just defeated a group of flaming skeleton guards near a deep chasm. On the other side was another tunnel leading on, guarded by a statue. As the last skeleton falls, the GM says, out of the mist a bridge begins to appear across the chasm. One of the players whose character was played as really heroic and first into battle type announces, I cross the bridge. Like a now classic cliche, the GM says, are you sure? But this happened many years ago, so it was not quite the meme it is now. So the player proudly announced his character would charge across the bridge. Okay, the GM says, an excited quality appearing in his voice, one of almost joy. I said the bridge was forming, not formed. Your character falls to his death. The weird part is that which was, according to the other players, out of nowhere. The GM had been fair in everything before this with no problems, and so I think the player never thought the GM would just outright kill his character on a technicality. Nothing in the campaign that had been going on for a while would make the player think the GM would do this. Well, I didn't have to decide to commit to the game, because it ended there, in what rose from the player thinking it was a joke, to a shouting match, and, at least for a while, the end of a friendship between the player and Grams. They patched it up later as, come on, it is just a game. I chalk it up to being kind of young and still a bit immature. But as Alanis Morissette sang, you live, you learn. Omnipotent NPC Jerks. Does anyone hate it when DMs introduce omnipotent NPCs? For some reason these NPCs are always jerks, but in a frustrating mess with the players kinda way. For example, I was playing a game where this ultimate sorcerer emerged from some crazy plane of existence. I made some joke about the situation and the guy teleported me to the astral sea for no reason, and then teleported me back. This was followed by a solid 3 hours of quirky behavior that was neither endearing or amusing. It just kind of removed any stakes in the story and came off like he was just fucking with us. It kind of discouraged me to roleplay because this god level entity would just do something annoying. We were level 5 BTW. The session didn't even go anywhere with the story. Why do certain DMs do this? I felt like the session was complete waste of time. It just seemed to be this one sorcerer dude torturing us for the session. The only completely omnipotent character I know of in any published setting is the Lady of Pain in Sigil. The best part about her character is there are rules around her power. She's mysterious, but you basically have to provoke her. The response is to flay you alive. Generally speaking, unless the player is trying to kill their character, they'll respect her. She enigmatic, cool, terrifying. A powerful character done right. Meanwhile my DM is trying to wow us with this ultimate magic man who can just teleport me to another dimension for no reason and is crazy. Flabbergasted. A campaign of 1 year might die due to an outburst. Playing a homebrew world with internet buds met on Reddit. Let me be honest, it's my first ever long-term campaign and I feel like I hit a gold mine of amazing players and a DM who has prepared so much and is dedicated to the craft. We recently entered a dead ancient city which was borrowed from the module Icewind Dale, City of Ithrin, but it was heavily modified to fit our current lore. So far it's been amazing. It's really a scary situation as there is now a flying fallen god king, that is CR 20 something, and our troop of level 12 characters are running about trying to collect things to open up the central portal to godhood. Come to yesterday, where one of the players at the beginning of the session has simply stated, "I hate this place." We bang our heads against the wall for hours. It's not fun. I can't do this, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but the word hate was used, and it felt shocking and vehemently used. We have been kinda struggling being stealthy against the thing in the sky, but it's made for some awesome skin of your teeth moments, where my character gets away usually eating a lot of damage, before escaping in the sewers by world shaping. Larksidon Druid is super fun. We sat there, the other player and I, along with the DM, and just waited for some elaboration. There was nothing. No way to improve it. No suggestions of any sort. Now some important things I had to think about was, maybe it was an episode of some sort? Do we just wait it out? Was this player asking for help or seeking attention? The DM, myself and the other player felt shocked and completely drained of the want and will to play. It's been a culmination of a year of amazing stories, and this ascension will lead to the campaign finale, but now we don't know if it will continue. I was hoping anyone out there that has gone through something similar and had some suggestions, ideas. If you need more details, let me know. Claire, come up with a better version of the lucky feat. Okay, so this happened a few years ago. I DM a weekly D&D campaign on Roll20 for some friends online. We were down a few players due to scheduling issues, so we decided to invite a new player. After a quick search we found a guy who seemed to fit in well. He built a normal elven wizard and chose the lucky feat. I give all my players a free feat when we start a campaign. The first session starts and everything seems normal. The group was hired security at an inventor's fair. They started by rolling perception checks to notice anything out of the ordinary. Our wizard rolls very low and says he'd like to roll with lucky. He then proceeds to spam rolls till he gets a high roll. I ask him why he rolled so many times. I assumed it was an error or lag. He proceeds to explain that in his IRL game they use the lucky feat to roll till they get high enough to pass the DC. I tell him that we like to stick to raw as much as possible, and if he'd like to change the feat he can after this session. He proceeds to try and argue it, but thankfully the other players speak and suggest that they just move on. After the game he proceeds to DM me on how I should just let him use his version BC, it's easier for everyone involved. At this point I wished I just asked him to leave the game, but I told him that I won't budge, and he's still free to pick a new feat or play to the rules. He agreed and the next few months went fine. That is until he thought it would be okay to sexually assault another PC in the game. But that's a story for another time. DM is sick of your shit. So I ended up inheriting a table I was playing at as a PC, since the DM left for reasons. Honestly they just ghosted, so who knows why. Anyways, we had one player, that was that guy. Always tried to derail the campaign. Metagamed. Murder hobo. Asking me to do PvP stuff, just because they knew it bothered other PCs. They literally said I'm gonna do the thing after the table tried to talk them out of it. I was the odd one out at the table as most of the PCs were friends IRL, so the table put up with Mr. Derail. Point of order is that I was very new to DMing, so the last thing I needed was a player intentionally making things difficult for me. For no reason out of the blue, Mischief Maker decided they wanted to set fire to the grain house of a friendly village, for no discernible reason. I can only assume to be a dick. I had some NPCs roll perception checks and thankfully they noticed quickly enough that they spotted the arson mid-act. The PC was I think an Arakakra, so they had a flight speed, but eventually a dozen horse riders were chasing annoying PC out of town firing arrows at them. I fly higher. Oh it's super windy, make a SDR save. Fail. Our movement speed is reduced for a round. I try to land high in a tree. The villagers shoot at you and then roll initiative. Finally I got a "Are you trying to kill my character?" To which I got to explain all the heinous shit they had done and how this had drawn the ire of the townsfolk who saw them as saviors. And then that person broke the spine of my PHB when I let them roll a new character. / 4 hours of DM planning ruined in an instant. prior to this campaign, I had never even touched D&D. Since it was my first time, my friend and experienced DM helped me create my character. While creating my character, I noticed a field in the character creator that basically allowed me to list items that I would have on my person before even starting the campaign. Now, I know how that could be used for story purposes, but I just sat there trying to think of something funny that I could use that for instead. I eventually asked my DM friend if I could have a 55-gallon drum of lube on my person, and if it could be hidden to be used at a random time for comedic effect. He said yes. About 3 sessions into the campaign, and my entire party decides to travel down a hole in a well, leading to an underground dungeon. We are still standing under the hole that we climbed down when we all feel a rumbling and realize that there is a myriad of little burrowing creatures digging their way to us through the walls. Eventually they surround us, and we have zero clue what to do. I'm talking thousands of these little pinchy, crawly things all around us. Then, it got real. Our DM sets a timer for 1 minute and 30 seconds for us to make a decision, after which the creatures would basically be at our feet. With seconds left, I suddenly had a brilliant idea. I explained to my party about the secret item, and they all likely laugh, but don't understand why I chose to bring it up at that time. The thing is, lube, specifically oil-based lube, is flammable. I specify that, and they quickly understand, and we basically go fire in the hole and escape back up the well shaft, leaving the lube barrel uncapped. Once everyone is up, we throw a match down, causing the whole place to go boom. We all share a good laugh before we see that our DM is a bit salty. He then tells us that he had stayed up for hours the previous night, and that he even had designed a custom map, complete with traps, bosses, etc. He was a bit sore, but laughs about it right with the rest of the group now. When is it right to let a player do a fatal move or simply saying no? We were playing a survival apocalypse game, and I made it clear the game was gonna be unforgiving. I had players roll up characters, and said I'd let them do any character if they could BS a good enough backstory. A player decided his awesome story is a mutant talking dog. Nothing special, just a dog that talks. I explained this might go badly in a gunfight. He replied nah, it will be okay, I'll just dodge and give myself high ac. So we did a quick scene to test his idea out. 3 banded point L, 1 with a shotgun and 2 with rifles. Level 3, critically low HP, no armor bought, and he gets the first move. What does he do? I run up and bite the middle rifle guy on the arm. Immediately gets shot by the other 2 bandits and dies. He got upset and felt it was unfair, purposefully made to kill his character, not realizing it was a random enemy combat scene I had saved and wanted to simply show him how hard it could be. I'll let him remake the character into the mythology's Michigan dog and grip it so he could continue fighting, but I've thought about this situation a lot. I love giving players freedom on characters, but when is it too far? When it hurts the group combat? When they get killed off immediately? I gave Hav the chance to add more to his character, but he only wanted a talking dog. My friend is getting bullied through his game. My friend doesn't have Reddit, so I'm posting on his behalf. I DM for him, but the group in question is from another game that he's in. Keep in mind, this group is online and with fellow adults. He's basically told me that over the course of this game, he has had 4 characters die. They've only played around 10 sessions. 2 of the deaths have been at the hands of other players. 1 was during PvP, the other as the players basically threw his character off a cliff, with no saving throw required by the DM. The DM has targeted him every session. His DM has had every enemy in combat focus specifically on this character, refused to let his character roll saving throws, said that he failed saving throws the other players passed, even though he got higher rolls than them, plus his DM rolls their death saves. And my friend's character almost always get all fails or a nat 1 every time. Every time he dies or his character gets hurt, the entire group, including the DM, finds it incredibly funny. When the other players aren't killing him, they are messing with his character in other ways, like trying to take their things, making NPCs attack the character, or beating up the character. He's told the DM that he feels like he's being targeted, and the DM basically told him to grow up cause it's funny. My friend is also autistic and isn't always great at picking up on cues. He wasn't totally oblivious, he just thought he was overreacting. Since one time, after they killed his character, he got upset and left, and everyone in the group told him he was being dramatic and to grow up. I think they were basically gaslighting him into thinking that he was being the childish one when they're the ones acting like middle school bullies. Really, their behavior is exactly like bullies messing with someone, saying it's just a joke, and then finding it funny whenever the subject of their torment gets upset. The group we are in together all told him to block them and not to play with them and to distance himself from them. But he's a bit nervous about the prospect. He knows he has to. He just doesn't like confrontation. I feel really bad since he's a really nice guy, super funny, and an awesome player. I genuinely think this group had it out for him because he sometimes struggles with social cues and obviously refused to make accommodations for him at the table. I think because of this, they just thought he was weird and a good target for their power trip. Right now I really want to help support him in dumping these guys and giving him an actual good supportive group to play with. Edit. Fix grammar and formatting and added more details so I won't have to keep going back and adding details as he gives me more information about this group.